The world thought it had seen everything when it came to Meghan Markle. But this week, the story didn't just surface, it detonated like a hidden landmine in plain sight, and no one saw it coming.
The Meghan Markle yacht girl claims simply will not go away. And you know I've spoken about this, having been a, quote, yacht girl. There have been more revelations. Markle and Prince Harry have suffered their biggest media attack yet, with Julie Burchill.
The questions that had been whispered in the dim corners of YouTube rabbit holes and Reddit threads, dismissed as obsession or conspiracy, suddenly found the roar of legitimacy when a nearly 2-century-old British publication decided to break silence, and not quietly. The Spectator, with a history stretching back to 1828, didn't stumble onto this story by accident. This wasn't the fleeting clickbait that fades into obscurity by Friday. No, this was the kind of permanent institutional attention that reshapes narratives. And the journalist who penned it, Julie Burchill, didn't tiptoe around her words. She didn't hedge. She asked questions that skipped the polite maybe and landed squarely in the territory of how many. As in, how many details of Meghan's yacht past and early social positioning have we yet to see? Michael and Prince Harry have suffered their biggest media attack yet with Julie Burchill. Mark, the framing here isn't subtle. It's the difference between tentative speculation and the full-blown reckoning of a figure whose every move has been curated, sanitized, and now publicly interrogated. The Spectator didn't throw this against the wall to see if it stuck. It ran it with the authority of decades, with weight, with intention. When someone like Burchill speaks in that arena, the echo reaches editors, journalists, and institutions that had previously looked the other way. And for those who followed the story from the periphery, the trajectory makes sense. The gaps in Meghan's history, the sudden erasure of early media footprints, the disappearance of information around Soho House connections, and her early career moves that have been buried in time all suddenly converge into a narrative that is impossible to ignore. In Stearns, the silence of former colleagues, the deliberate quiet of those who could illuminate that shadowed past, is starting to crack under the pressure. Those who once watched from the sidelines now realize that what was once safely ignored is being assembled into a body of work that cannot be dismissed. One journalist has spent 6 years, 6 full, relentless years, digging, corroborating, archiving, and checking every thread of Meghan's early life. Not just rumors, not whispers, but structured, investigative reporting that sits there waiting for the precise moment when the world is ready to pay attention. And that moment has arrived. The timing couldn't be more surgical. Right as Netflix experiences a professional fallout, The Spectator publishes its piercing look into the hidden corners of Meghan's life. Variety drops insider accounts of her working relationships deteriorating with one of the most powerful entertainment companies on earth, and a wellness weekend in Sydney is revealed to have been sold at premium rates through a bankrupt organizer, turning what seemed like a benign lifestyle event into another clue in a much larger pattern. Every piece falls into place, and the pattern is unmistakable. A strategic consolidation of influence, reputation, and access, meticulously choreographed over years, now arriving in the public sphere like a tidal wave. And sitting parallel to all this is Harry, drifting, disconnected, the foundations of his new life quietly crumbling as the Sussex brand, the charitable endeavors, and even his personal relationships show signs of erosion, leaving him isolated amidst the fallout of decisions he may not have fully anticipated. The convergence is dizzying, the threads interlocking like a web no one can escape. This isn't mere gossip. This is the unraveling of a carefully constructed narrative, and the world is now staring directly at the fissures. And then there's the media ecosystem itself, circling like predators sensing movement, recalibrating, watching every signal that the Spectator, Variety, and the investigative journalists have sent into the public sphere. When Meghan and Netflix sever ties for the As Ever brand, there was everyone who knows is leaning forward. Instance, the energy in those rooms is tangible. Editors, journalists, insiders all realizing that the questions that were once safely relegated to the fringes, mocked and dismissed, are now being asked with authority and seriousness. The timing of Tom Bower's UK book, the painstakingly built investigation spanning 6 years, the sudden visibility of what was previously buried, all converging at the same moment, creates a pressure cooker for the narrative that Meghan Markle herself once invited when she publicly said she had nothing to fear from an honest account of her life. Millions of dollars in the hole was severed as ever deal. They never saw a return sources. Suddenly, that statement isn't just a confident soundbite, it becomes a challenge, a dare even, as the most thoroughly sourced, rigorously verified, and mainstream-ready investigative work starts to pierce the curated veil she built around her public persona. This is compounded by the fallout with Netflix, a company that doesn't suffer fools, doesn't tolerate casual unprofessionalism, and certainly doesn't tolerate someone walking away from established professional responsibilities without consequences. The reports from Variety reveal behavior in high-level meetings that reads like a textbook case of professional disengagement, leaving Zoom calls mid-discussion, becoming unreachable, creating tension at the highest echelons of entertainment power. When Ted Sarandos, one of the most influential figures in global media, reaches the point of being publicly unavailable to someone he was actively funding and supporting, that's not a subtle warning. It's a signal to the entire industry about reliability, accountability, and consequences. Video Meghan Markle leaving Netflix millions of dollars in the hole. So that makes damning the financial picture adds another layer. Merchandise piled up, unsold, warehouses holding millions of dollars of brand collateral that never moved. The Sussex brand, once a symbol of entrepreneurial royalty, now reads as a cautionary tale of overreach and missed execution. And across the globe, in Australia, the Wellness Weekend casts a different kind of light on the empire of proximity she has cultivated. Nearly $3,000 for access, packaged experience, selfies with royalty, while the organizer's financial instability looms like a shadow over the entire operation. Why she's going to teach people how to do a podcast? She was thrown off for that. She's just nonsense. After layer this over the whispers and erasures of her early years, the vanishing records, the silences of those who witnessed her formative experiences, and suddenly a portrait emerges that is far more complex, far more combustible than any single report could convey. Meanwhile, Harry, once the structured, grounded foil to Meghan's meteoric rise, now drifts in a quiet, almost imperceptible erosion of personal structure. His charitable foundation shuttered, friendships eroded to a single remaining connection from his wedding party, and a sense of stillness that is more limbo than peace. Observers describe a man unmoored, watching the world he stepped away from carry on without him, juxtaposed against a spouse who continues to pivot, monetize, and occupy the public eye with a series of high-profile appearances and ventures that only reinforce the contrast. And as all of this unfolds, the layers interlock. A 200-year-old publication interrogating long-suppressed questions, Variety exposing professional frictions, Sydney Wellness Weekend shining a light on monetized access, Tom Bauer's investigative book waiting for its moment, and a 6-year journalistic endeavor ready to drop into a climate now primed to understand it. The threads converge into a single tapestry of scrutiny, timing, and consequence that no one in Meghan and Harry's orbit can ignore. Netflix dropped them like a hot potato. Netflix said, "We're done with you guys, okay? We're not getting a return." Plus, this isn't a moment of quiet reflection or gentle recalibration. This is a shift in the landscape of celebrity, media, and legacy. A convergence of professional, financial, and reputational pressure that lands simultaneously, leaving both Meghan and Harry in a spotlight that exposes patterns, decisions, and silences alike. The tide has turned, the gap between speculation and accountability has closed, and the narrative that once existed only in corners and whispers is now mainstream, unavoidable, and meticulously documented. Every actor, every insider, every journalist who once glanced at the edges of this story is now watching a spectacle where the threads of power, privilege, and persona collide, and the shape of everything, the curated image, the brand, the relationships, the perception, has shifted forever. What was once a series of gentle questions dismissed as gossip has now become a coordinated, unavoidable, deeply reported account that reads less like rumor and more like revelation, and the world can no longer look away.